Alright, in this video I am going to be replacing the dashboard on a second gen Infiniti FX. This is a 50. And it came with the rather typical dashboard cracks. Got a fresh one back there. So, follow along while we rip this guy out. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to remove the glove box. I had already had mine removed to do some electrical work down there. Not exactly rocket science, held in place with a couple screws going around here. Just know that there is one down here that is very, very hard to get to. You can't even really see it. And you just kind of have to go in blind with your screwdriver to get that. But really, getting the other ones out is really simple. I think there's a light bulb that goes in here that you want to just twist to release. But really, this should be pretty simple. So then let's move on to the other side. Alright, pretty similar story over here on the driver's side. Kind of similar story for myself. This has already been removed for doing some other work. So it's only kind of half installed right now at the moment, which is why things are kind of dangling down. But you will just kind of go along the bottom here and remove any screws. Anything else here is just the the press-in pop fit connectors. So once you have the screws removed, you can just kind of start to pull this away like so, and then you will just be left to disconnect all of the electrical connectors down here for your stuff, and then this panel will drop away. So that's what I'm going to do next. So here is the beautiful uncracked dashboard that took a very long time to find. I think a lot of this process is going to involve all the wires in here. When this one was pulled, and probably yours will be pulled, they'll probably just snip wires where convenient, and you will be left having to transfer your wiring into the dashboard. Not a huge deal, but you're going to have to probably get under there and start, follow this wire, pull it down. For everything in the dashboard, maybe if you're lucky, some things will still be in place. Others, because I think when I traced that wire, it came all the way over here and ran, so you're gonna have to spend some time cleaning up the wires. Like this one was already cut. Speaker wires were cut. This one was unplugged in here. So I'm gonna go through and kind of clean up any wiring in here that I won't be able to reuse or transfer. And that's going to be what I'm going to do for a little while. Alright, so there wasn't all that much to do here. Really the only wire that was cut was that one down there with all of the pink wire tape wrap things on it. Well, I guess there were a couple other things too. I chose to remove the speakers on the side and their grill covers there. Just to make things a little easier, I think, because getting to those wire connections, the terminals for the speaker, is kind of difficult from inside the dash. So anyways, this thing is pretty much ready to go. Having one of these in front of you will definitely help you figure out what you need to unscrew to remove everything. I believe I'm going to have to, drop the steering column, remove the instrument cluster, pop out the whole center stack, which is mostly these clips, but there are probably also a couple screws. So let's see how it goes. One thing you're going to want to do is to completely disconnect the battery, both negative and positive, just to be safe terminals. Since we are going to be working with the battery, definitely on the passenger side. I'm going to try to avoid touching it on the driver's side if I can. But you definitely want to give time for all the modules and everything to kind of depower before you go unplugging anything with the airbag, just so you don't accidentally set that thing off. So give it time after you unplug everything here, just to be safe. All right, so to remove the whole center stack, you have to start here in the back. Get a little pry tool, and you get this piece off. And then what do? You pull that down. There's a little retaining clip thing that you pull back towards you. Let's see if I can do this not while I'm holding the camera. 1 second. Alright, once you remove the retaining clip, the shift knob just pulls straight up. And then you simply, carefully, especially if you have the wood finish here, start from the back. There are 2 clips here. Pull it up. And I was kind of pulling it actually from the sides to free it up. But you just kind of keep going, and this should lift off next. And with that removed, the next thing you do is the little ashtray thing. Not held in place with any screws, just again 2 clips, and you just kind of, pull it from each side firmly, and that should come out. Obviously there was the electrical connector for the shifter that you had to disconnect first, and then eventually work that guy out and also remove the electrical plug on that. With that out of the way, you're going to move on and remove the lower 2 screws here. One on each side there. There you go. Remove those 2 screws, and then this section should start to pop out. Alright, with that removed and it was 4 electrical harnesses unplugged. Next up are the 2 screws there for the screen and the vents. With that removed, it's time to remove the screen. I'm going to remove this just so I don't damage it. I'm not sure if it has to be removed, but I'm going to do it to play it safe. And again, that looks like it's just 2 screws there. And just be careful you don't bang it against those guys up there when you remove it. Alright, so to get the screen out, it does have these kind of tabs that, well, you can see the shape. You gotta kind of like press up and wiggle it around a little bit before it slides out, but that's what you're dealing with there. Next up is going to be the CD changer. Again, I'm not really sure that I have to remove this, but it looks like it's simple enough. And just in case I need to get to any wiring back there, just going to pull it out, just like everything else. 2 more screws down there, and hopefully that guy will just slide right out. Alright, well that definitely did need to come out. It has its fair share of electrical connectors on that guy. But again, not too much trouble. Next I'm going to pop out my ignition button here, disconnect that. There's this little guy down here. Got to unscrew that guy. You can leave it plugged in, just let it dangle. And And then I got to figure out what to do next. Okay, with those guys removed, next up are going to be the, there it is, 2 screws down there. Alright, over here on the passenger side, I removed 3 screws that were up here. All they do is hold in this bar, which you don't have to do. There's just 1 screw over here that you remove, and now this whole thing is free. I popped this side cover off, but you don't have to. It doesn't look like there's anything behind it. So now we are starting to get some movement over here. So, good progress. Let's keep going. Next up, I removed the electrical connector for the airbag. You need to push this guy up. Can't show it very well, but it should slide off. And then I removed the 12mm bolt up there for the bracket for the airbag. And getting just a little bit more movement in the dash, so just keep going. And before I forget, I'm going to unplug the center channel speaker up there on the dash. Back on the driver's side, I think I'm going to remove this lower cover here if I'm going to try to drop the steering column. So there is a screw up in here I'm going to remove, and then hopefully the rest of it will kind of fall apart there. Alright, got the lower cover off. There were actually 2 more screws holding it in place. You have to pop the side pieces out a little bit, peel them back, and then stick a screwdriver in there on each side to remove the 2 screws there, and then the lower cover drops out. Alright, so to drop the steering column, it looks like there are 6 bolts that I need to remove. There are 2, there's 1, 2 in the front, those guys, and then in the back there's a bracket, which is I'm not going to be able to get a good shot of, holding up the rear of the column. So I think I need to remove those guys coming down there, and then the 2 up top. And these all look like 12mm bolts. Well, it looks like 4 bolts and 2 nuts in the front. I know you couldn't see any of that, but hopefully you can figure it out. Alright, the steering column is almost dropped. Correction, there are only 3 bolts that I removed in the back, not 4 like I thought. Removed 1 of the nuts, and the other one is just barely holding this thing in place, but it is loose. So, haven't figured out what I'm going to do when I drop it. I guess it'll just stay in my lap while I remove the instrument cluster. Let's see how that goes. Alright, well that wasn't so bad. Just support the steering column with your arm while loosening the nut. Have some jack stands in place. Actually the rear one isn't really doing anything. And it just kind of comes down a little bit. And hopefully that will give us all the room we need to pull the instrument cluster. All this is an effort to not remove the steering wheel. From what I heard, this can be done while you leave the steering wheel on if you do it like this. So let's see if that's true. Alright, first thing we got to do is to remove this surround piece. It's in there pretty good, so what I did was I reached my hand around to the back of one of its plastic things and kind of pushed from the back while I pulled it from the front, and that got this to pop out. And then you'll just kind of gently work your way around pulling it out. It doesn't seem like there are any screws holding it in place. Alright, so to get this shroud piece out, you then have to pop off these 4 clips from that guy there. Kind of tough, but they do come out. So with that, we finally have access to the 1, 2, can you see them? They're down there. 1, 2, 3 bolts, and the gauge cluster should come out. Alright, next, undo that electrical connector up there. And then, let's see, can you see this? I released this guy from right here, so this wire is free. That's for the trip reset, it looks like. Not sure if I can pop that out or not, or if I need to. And actually, once you release it, go ahead and unclip it. Next, use a trim clip removal popper tool to pop this one down, and then this guy from back here, so all these wires are nice and loose. Alright, had to change camera here. Forgive the change in perspective or whatever it may look like. So, we're going to pop off the side cover over here, and again it just pops off. It looks like there are 2 screws here we need to undo, and let's see where it goes from there. In addition to the 2 screws down there, there is another one there, and then we're going to undo these 2 screws in here that were behind the gauge cluster. So I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of guessing as to what comes next because it's not exactly obvious. I decided to remove the A-pillars in here, and looks like I was right to do so because there is a screw down there that's going to have to come off. I'll probably pop these covers off as well, but they are on there very tight. So let's do that and see how it goes. Alright, so to remove the screw I had to pop off the speaker cover, which is on pretty tight, and that revealed a nice big 12 mil, it looks like, bolt back there, and hopefully that will really free things up. So let's remove that. I'm probably going to pop the speakers out and disconnect them here, just so I don't have to worry about yanking the wires. And by the way, to remove those 2 screws from the speaker area, I had to use this little right angle screwdriver because it is so tight up there against the dashboard. So if you don't have one of these, go pick one up. To get the 4 8mm bolts holding the speakers out, you can access the front 2, which is the normal socket, but the 2 closest to the windshield are going to require some sort of wrench. If you got a ratcheting flex head, that's going to be the best, but the other ones can be used. Alright, so you definitely have to at least separate the center console and move it back a little bit. I popped this guy off so the 2 sides can kind of separate. But to get it off, there are, let's see if I can get a video of it. There are 2 screws down here on either side that bolt to this bracket. There's a black bracket from the body that it attaches to, so you just got to undo those on either side, and then this whole thing will lift up. Then you can start to pull it back. And now we are very, very close to getting this thing out of here. I'll probably get a second set of hands in here, just so I don't scratch the hell out of the steering wheel or whatever else, but hopefully all the wires are disconnected, I guess I'll find out when I go to remove it, but I think we are very close here. Alright, so before this will come out, I had to do a couple more things. There is a screw holding in this little bracket underneath the center channel speaker. Not sure if that had to come out. I removed it. I had to pop off this guy here and unplug the light sensor that sits about here. And then these pink wires, well, pink wrapped wires coming out of the dash here. They go up the A-pillar, unplug them from up there. This looks a lot better. I'll let you know if I missed something else. Alright, found out the next thing that's holding it in place, and that is the side tubes, the side vent here. There's a big plastic thing. You have to disconnect it from the center outlet there for the HVAC up top. Have to do that on both sides, and hopefully that will do it. Well, it is out, and it was not easy. This is a two-person operation for sure. It's basically gonna get caught behind this giant bundle of wires here, where it sits down on top of the, I don't know if that's the inlet or the outlet or whatever, I guess, but it doesn't matter. So it's gonna get caught back there. Be careful of your shifter. Like, you're gonna have to lift the whole thing over the shifter, and then it's gonna be putting pressure on the shifter. Watch that. And the way we were able to get it out is to kind of lift one side up, this passenger side, kind of lift it towards the back of the car while not forcing that side. It's just a bunch of fussing and wrangling that thing out, but it is out, nothing broke. So I think all I have to do is transfer this wire to the other dash, and then swap it over, which I'm sure it's going to be its own hassle, but it's out. So pretty happy about that. That took about 3.5 hours with some breaks and me having no idea what I'm doing. Hopefully it'll go quicker for you. Okay, so I've been fighting the dashboard trying to get it back in. Learned a very big lesson that you'll need to know. First, I removed the rearview mirror just to give myself more space. I also taped up the top of the steering wheel to protect it from any gashes from the dash. But the biggest thing, this guy you have to detach from your dashboard. It's just two push clip things, whatever. This has to be installed in the car before you put the dashboard back in. Otherwise, you will never get it over this giant bundle of wires. Ask me how I know. So it's in place. It just slide. There are two tabs. I mean, yeah, that just kind of slide into place. It's attach the side vents, and that's it. So now it should be easy. Before, we were absolutely fighting this thing, trying to get over the bundle of wires. It just would not work. Thankfully, I had the new dash came with one, because I actually broke my original, or vice versa. Broke the new one, reusing my original one. So learn from me. Put that in first, and this should be a lot easier. All right. The dash is in, and it was very easy. Once you make sure that, well, if you make sure you install that center vent tube thing before the dash. So before you get too crazy reassembling things, make sure you pull your wires through for the tweeters and then the two, I guess, light sensor things there in the center. Put those push pins back in to hold the dash to the vent. And then I think I will start bolting things down around the tweeters. Also, don't forget, reattach that screw there just to hold everything in place. But I believe, I sure hope, that was the hard part of the job. And hopefully I can just kind of plug stuff back in. Let's see what other kind of snags I hit. Depending on how your replacement dash was pulled, you may or may not need to transfer this wire from your original dash onto the new one. It terminates over here with these two connectors. I had to transfer it because mine was snipped off on the replacement dash. So don't be like me and have to take the dash out again. Once again, the dash is in the car. I probably had to take it out 15 times to get everything right. It was perfect the very first time I put it in, except I forgot to transfer that wire from my dashboard, the original one, to this one. And then every time after that, I was having so many problems getting it lined up and clipped into the black vent underneath there in the front. Having the pieces of tape on the wire, quite helpful. Another tip, when you're putting those black push clips in, also put a piece of tape over the top of it, because you are very likely to lose it somewhere as it slips off and doesn't go in the hole. So put some tape on those things. Trust me, it'll make it a lot easier. A big important thing in making this go smoothly is this center section. I knew there were two little guiding sliders there. It's also important to note that there are two hooks here in the back, and again, two little slider things. It's crucial that all of these things get in properly. But of course, you can't see anything in the back when it's in place. So you kind of have to, and you can just barely see these two things behind the giant wiring harness. Get those in place, lined up, you can actually see them, and then you can kind of gently push the back down, and you should hear it kind of clip. And wiggle it back and forth, make sure this thing is secure, because otherwise it will, the mounting holes will just never line up with the dashboard. This was so easy. It went perfectly the first time, and then it took another 15 tries for it to work perfectly again. So learn from this and try to do it right, and don't make my mistakes.